it is obviously a frame to come to some kind of cooperation, of working together. But I think that, over time, over the last, decades, centuries, etc., the notion of concordia, of doing something together, has been changing a lot in what people understand by it. So, the era of Fordism was very much connected to homogenization, so everyone had to be the same. And I think it's very important to stress out that it's not, that OMONOIA, for me, does not mean to agree on something or to level differences, but it's exactly out of the acceptance of the difference and the not agreeing that we can create something new without having a majority imposing something to a minority or minorities or whatever. So said that, I think it's opening up a space for something, but it's definitely not still, until it's done, it's not clear if this is what can be done and is to be done, it's going to be good or not. There is, everything that artists touch can turn into gold or into shit or both sometimes. And that's a problematic relationship, especially with the question of gentrification. Because, if we look what happened during the last 30, 40 years with what used to be, let's say, spaces or neighborhoods with marginalized poor people, proletarian neighborhoods, etc., that started interacting with artists, with culture, etc., we see that nowadays these neighborhoods, be it in New York, be it in London, be it in Paris, are the neighborhoods where neither the artists nor the normal people can pay the rent anymore. So obviously, I think and I hope that neither the Biennale nor the artists participating want to be part of that happening here. So I think it's it's an important process that can bear many chances, but it's also a very delicate thing, and you're walking on a thin line, making things suitable for capital, or really developing alternatives with people. But I think that some of the conditions is, first, the artists shouldn't take see themselves as the center of things, but see the community as the center of things. And second thing is that it's probably healthier for the whole process if it does not have a lot of media coverage, what is usually in the interest of artists and biennales. But it's probably much healthier for all the neighborhood if these things happen without too much media coverage. Always the danger where art gets involved. Art mainly lives, who's financing, who's buying art, who's paying? The bourgeoisie, the oligarchy, and some major public institutions, and huge companies. So it's obviously mainly an interest, following interests of a ruling class and an upper class. So how can you, there are loads of artists that try obviously to get around a bit and do something different. But how can we ensure that what we do as artists, the practices we develop even with communities, are not automatically taken over by capital and used for their goals? So I think that's always the main question, whatever you do, but it's even stronger in the arts field that offers more possibilities, more chances on one side, but also a lot of dangers on the other side. That implies that there is democracy, and there isn't. So democracy having a future, I don't see it. There is a very rapid development to authoritarian states, to total control, to wide repression, to not accepting even what people decide or vote on or whatever. And I think that the only hope for democracy for Europe is probably dissolving this authoritarian building that the European Union represents. It was thought, even by many leftists, as something that might be able to tame authoritarian expansionist ideas of, for example, Germany or imperialism or whatever. It did. It transformed into a vehicle for German imperialism and for the destruction of democracy, for the homogenization on the lowest level of rights and services. And it has not even diminished nationalism, as most people think. Quite the contrary. So I think that the European Union itself, as most governments, as the states, as everything that is going on, is not improving or bringing more democracy. I think if there's not a massive uprising by people in Europe, there will be no future for democracy. I think the rethinking institution is the most challenging, tricky, most important, and probably the most contradictory, because most of the people will agree on many things about the alternative economy, even if they assign them a different meaning maybe, or different importance or whatever. But the questions of the institution is crucial, and we see that even the left in Europe is quite divided about it, about if to save Europe and the euro and how or not, to which extent to collaborate in which way in institutions. But I also think that after the huge waves of movement mobilizations or even of societies, mobilized societies we saw in 2010, 2011, 2012, that were actually making it difficult or impossible to implement certain things, and that really disrupted business as usual. We had to turn into more institutional and work and parties and whatever, and it did not have the result people expected. It did not change anything. It's not disruptive at all. It's bringing back everything into business as usual, with a little play field where you are allowed to be opposition because you don't harm anything, you don't disturb anything. So I think that still, even if like certain parliamentary representation or whatever might be used by movements, even if the things that happened in Greece and somewhere else, it makes it more look like that the parliamentary representations use the movements and not the other way around. But even if so, I think that if we want change, we need rupture, radical rupture, be it wherever. But we need radical rupture that creates new social processes, and these new social processes might bear chances for transformation. But without rupture, there's no new social process and new beginning, and without that, there is no possibility of change. Coming to Athens several times a year anyway, for the last year, so I noticed like this work. But I think that what is obviously impressive in Athens is that it still survives, even if the Troika, the European Union, German politics, and the European Central Bank tried with any means possible to destroy it. And so I think it's very interesting what different types of strategies people developed, collective strategies during the last years, in order to survive and to create a different society. I think it's now the big question, and I still haven't answered that, or I still haven't seen anything that really answers it. Have people in Greece and in Athens, by what happened, did it break their neck so that they're now not mobilizing anymore and frustrated at home and lost their idea that a change is possible? Or is the change still possible with mobilization, because they just recognize that one way they thought it would be or would bring a change did not work, so we have to try out other ways.